All right, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome. Thanks for joining me. My name is Vic. I've been helping classically trained flute players improve their improvising, and here in a moment, Prema Kesselman will be joining us, and I am very excited because she's going to be talking about this tiny little unobtrusive, but technically very advantageous invention for the flute called the PremAligner. So here in a moment, I'll invite her on screen, and give me just a moment while I send that invite. Let's see. And we'll have a nice little.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for joining me.
Thanks
I'm
for
gonna take a
having me.
The last time I did this, I watched the video back and it was like just my nose and my mouth for some of it. My eyes got cut off, so I'll stand back. Can you see me okay?
Okay, adjusting. Actually, I first saw you exactly how you explained people saw you, just from the nose down. Okay, if you can move back a little bit. So now your forehead's cut off. So we're trying to get the proper alignment, but I can't frame align you. Okay.
So I'm probably
Can you see me all right?
but yeah, I can see you great. I'm appreciating that purple.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. And you got the blue. We have like the blue is, but it's kind of purplish, bluish, the logo. So we're in that color scheme. Can you see me okay?
Yeah, I can see you and hear you great. Yeah, so we were able to have a nice one-on-one chat yesterday. I got to hear a little bit of the background story. But I would love to just hear a little bit about what inspired you to invent the PremAligner and how that got us to here today. Would you tell me?
Yes, absolutely. Oh, wow. So I have been teaching for over 20 years, and it's something I've struggled with myself and watch my students struggle with time and time again. I put their flute together for them, tell them how to align it, and they come back the next week and tell me, Mrs. Kesselman, I cannot find the position you gave me. Or sometimes they think it's perfect, and I see them playing across the room, and I can tell it's not in the correct position. They don't sound their best. There's problems with intonation. I mean, it could range from people having arm problems, and not projecting, not being able to play with different colors, different dynamics. Just about everything is impacted with how we position our head joint. It was during the pandemic, actually. I had a neighbor come over. She had just started flute and band 1 week before, and she said, I can't make a sound. Can we come on your porch? The kids were just going back to school, going to be playing in person, but their band teachers could not play test their flutes or touch them because of COVID times. So I said, okay, come on the porch, we'll wear a mask, and I will assemble your flute for you. I said, okay, first show me, how have you been doing it? And it was completely wrong. The whole thing was completely rolled in. So I aligned it for her, and she can make a sound without me telling her how to do anything. So I thought something has to be done. I've had so much frustration from beginners. I mean, I started teaching when I was a teenager, all the way to master's students. I teach at Temple University now, and they have never been told how to align their head joint to the body. You would think it's something that all flute teachers would teach their students the first lesson. Well, as we know, as professionals you are, it's not that simple. There are so many variables and schools of thought. And me inventing this is not enforcing or endorsing any school of flute playing particularly. It's just for flute players everywhere to position their head joint at an optimal position for their bodies and therefore their school of thought on how they want to play the flute. And so that's kind of the back story of it, just wanting to help flute players everywhere. And then this girl during the pandemic having problems, and it just put the thought in my head. And none of my students at that time could put their flute together in the way that was best for them consistently. And so, okay, they resort to the black Sharpie marker back from our beloved Suzuki, who told us in the 1950s to put Sharpie marker on our flute. Is there not a better invention? I mean, in the 21st century?
Let me
My
get
dad, he's an
a zoom
engineer.
out
Yeah.
for what we're actually talking about here. So let's see.
Yeah.
Let me get a little more light.
Yeah, I mean, my dad's an engineer, and I told him my idea. He actually has a patent for test equipment. Anyway, he said, "There's no way this has not been invented before." I said, "No, there's nothing." He made me look at copyright searches, patent searches, everything around the world. There was nothing. Now, Yamaha did put on their beginning flutes. I can't say when they stopped doing it. These little arrows on the back, you know, one on the head, on the body, but they're arbitrary. You know, it wasn't going to be consistent. I mean, it's not going to be the right setup for everyone. It's not one size fits all. But it wasn't until I was like 16 and I went to a master class with Peter Lloyd, fantastic former principal of London Symphony Orchestra, known for playing on all the Star Wars, Princess Leia's theme, all that. That's him. So it was an amazing experience to play for him. And he told me, okay, you align the head joint with the back edge of the embouchure hole, okay, here, with the back edge of the first key. Okay, so that's how I eyeballed it for a good 20 years, like this, eyeballing it perfectly. And that worked for me, and that made it so that, you know, your keys are nicely parallel to the ceiling, and there's no rolling back with the rods and you know, all that. And that worked for me. But not everyone can eyeball it so perfectly. And it drove me nuts. I'd be like this, trying to find the right position, you know, and it changes as well. There's going to be probably plenty of flute players watching this saying like, oh, well, you know, for different repertoire, I'm going to have it adjusted a little bit of a different way. Well, with this, you can literally say like, okay, I'm going to line it to 8 for Poulenc, and then maybe for Prokofiev, I'm going to line it to 7, like something like this. And it just allows for quick positioning. It's foolproof, and choose your number, and you're ready to go.
I'm glad you used that phrase eyeballing because that's what I was just thinking about. And for some things, eyeballing it is okay. Like, how much whipped cream are we going to put in this pie? But for other things, eyeballing it is not okay, like building a house. Or even to stay with the baking metaphor, baking, you know, you only need a tiny amount of baking soda to make a cookie or a cake rise, right? And flute is kind of a precise science. So I can speak from my own experience of, okay, I'm at a gig or it's about time for me to get my flute out, and I feel like a weirdo here trying to look down the barrel of my flute like it's a rifle or something, and I'm eyeballing it, but I'm also in one ear I'm having a conversation. Then the music comes on and I play, and it's not in the ideal position. Usually it's too far rolled in. And then I have two options. Stop playing to roll it out, or just suffer through the pinched tone that I'm going to get in that situation. And I do experience, you know, I might adjust my head joint out if I'm going to be playing a lot of loud high notes because it makes it easier to get the high notes out. And if I'm playing in a small intimate environment playing lots of low notes, I might roll it in, and now I can know exactly where it is before I put the flute to my face. Now, most of my listeners are classical players, and so stopping to adjust your head joint is kind of like a last case scenario, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it is.
you
You're
don't really
looking down at your instrument. I mean, we already are adjusting for temperature changes, you know, the hot lights on stage, or a draft comes in. And so you're already having to deal with pulling the head joint in and out. I mean, it's bound to happen during a performance. I usually have to pull it out just a little bit as we go on, you know. That's not foolproof in itself. So now, in addition, you realize you're sharp. You pull your head joint out, and then it's completely whacked the alignment.
mm.
Yeah, it's a massive concern. I am literally obsessed with it. You know, I would eyeball it a million times before that concert starts so I don't have to adjust it. But then, like I said, something happens, your flute gets warm, gotta eyeball it again. Yeah. It's amazing. Something so simple. I mean, with the reed, they're constantly adjusting the reed. They're pulling the staple in and out. Oboist, for example, or bassoonist. You know, it's not exactly going to be the same every time for them. At least we don't have to make our head joint.
I know. I'm grateful that I don't have to do that. Now, I feel like we've been talking a lot, and some of y'all may not have a good idea of what this is and how it works. So it actually comes with 2 per package. So I already put one on my main driver, my Pearl Elegante, and I was thinking that I would put it on my purple flute here with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So, Prema, would you like to walk us through this?
I'll show you the 2 sets here. So this is one set. These are the 1/16 of an inch measurements, and then this is the aligner, which goes on the head joint. And you always have to make sure that you push your head joint in all the way when you're putting on the aligner so you can get it at the perfect measurement to begin with. And these are the 2 sets, and they come in these lovely green line, biodegradable, earth-friendly, conscious plastic bags. And we got a double-sided instructional card. So it's got a little bit of the information about the vision behind it, and then the simple instructions. So hopefully a young student could take this out and keep it. You know, they wouldn't lose it. It's pretty thick. And, you know, I prototyped a lot of different materials with my daughter, who's she's 9 now, but she was 8 when, you know, I started prototyping different materials. I tried metallized paper. I thought, let's make this look rich. Let's have it in gold for people who have gold flutes. Let's make it silver for people who have silver. But it's not one size fits all, and there's differences in the colors of metals. And so I figured, let's just do clear, and it will be more inconspicuous, and then the natural color of the material of the flute player's flute would just shine through the clear material. Mm-hmm. And then I tried different adhesives as well. And hers has been on for over 6 months. And yeah, with sweat, her rubbing it, you know, kids, gooey hands, what have you. It hasn't come off. So it's unlikely, you know, that it would come off so easily, even for a professional. So, you know, these will probably last you years, these 2 sets. Actually, I just got my from a COA.
Yeah, you were saying that.
Yeah, I got it back from a COA, so they put an ultrasonic cleaner, and it's still on it. It didn't come off. But don't worry, don't fret, because it's really easy to take off. They're literally labels that have an adhesive that you don't even have to add water to take off the adhesive. I just literally rub it off with my thumb, and the adhesive is off. So it's not going to mar your flute. So I made sure of that. Completely removable. Mm-hmm.
It's removable, but these lines are, you have to be pretty close up to see them. Mm-hmm. I feel like chances of someone noticing this from anywhere more than a foot away is pretty small.
That's
but
right.
You were saying that just so that someone doesn't see, you want to place the numbers either on the bottom of the flute or facing you, right?
On the underside of the flute. So literally, like if we think of this being the top of the flute, so back here. Yeah.
All right. So, I just wiped off my flute with my cloth so that my own greasy fingers are hopefully not going to interfere.
Mm-hmm.
And the other piece,
yeah,
this lines up with the numbers. So you were saying number 8 is the middle number. So
that's right.
Find what my usual playing position would be and shoot to line it up for 8.
That would be in the middle. That's right. They're 1/16 of an inch measurements. That's right. Mm-hmm. So
that time when I just put my flute together, I was so rolled out. I would have just been like playing like this the whole time if I had not changed it right
Yeah.
then. Still.
Yeah. Well, now it looks like you're playing backwards. That's cool too. Yeah, but we got the mirror image.
Oh yeah.
Right.
You know, I've got
The,
to figure out the best way to do a
mhm.
flute cast for Facebook. Okay, so here I go.
All right. Wow.
This is probably not the best camera angle. I apologize, y'all.
Yeah. But it just takes a few seconds, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And mhm. You can
yeah.
see the purple shining through. Your beautiful purple flute will not be marred by any other color.
For any color.
Any
This would look great
color
here
of
in
flute
purple.
you want. Its
What color
luster
flute
and
would you
beauty will shine through.
like? Let's see, I've seen pink and red and blue and turquoise. Yeah. If y'all want a purple flute, just ask me. I can tell you where I got this one. It's a great backup.
Yeah.
So, how might this have been for you if you had had this when you started to play flute?
That's a good question. I definitely struggled. I remember I had one lesson and then my teacher went away for the summer. I began in June and then I didn't have lessons again until September and I was left on my own. And when I came back, okay, I'd figured out how to play, already some scales because I had taken piano before, so it wasn't so tricky figure it out. I had my fingering chart, but I came back with a bad habit and my flute was all rolled in. And I suffered from rolling in, as my teacher kept telling me for the first year of lessons. And, thinking back on it, probably if I would have known how to align the head joint, that would have helped me immensely. I mean, that's the thing. You want to be able to align your flute properly when you take it home after your first lesson, whether you are a student in school in a group lesson or you have a top professional teaching you from day one. You still have those days in between your lessons when you have to assemble your flute. It's just like a violinist, they have to know how much to wind the bow,
Mm,
right?
that's a good point. Yeah, and it's when you're talking about that,
Mm-hmm.
how your teacher said you've suffered from rolled inness. I thought about a time in my life where I went through a change in my embouchure, which everybody is going to go through at some point in their life, no matter who they're studying with and how professional they are. Some sort of moment where you're like, oh my God, I'm going through a radical change. And it might even help to take a break. But when I came back after that break, it's like, oh, I discovered that I needed to put my head joint in a different position than before when I had a smiley embouchure. And
Yes.
if you're a student, if you're a middle schooler or trying to learn a new technique and you don't have a reference point in your practice journal, you're just going to keep falling back into that old habit. Don't you think?
Absolutely. Yes, there's nothing to keep you accountable, because your teacher can't sit near you, next to you at each practice, except my daughter, because I teach her flute, right? But I didn't grow up with a flute player in my house. I was the only person who played the flute, so yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. Like I said, until I was 16 when Peter Light said, no, this is how you align it. But still, it's not one size fits all, and I've learned that from teaching over these past over 20 years. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I know that different teachers have different opinions on that.
Yeah.
And those of you watching this now or in the future, I would love if you drop it in the comments what you learned, what your teachers taught you. What I know you've been in business for at least I guess 6 months now. So what has the reception been from flute teachers so far?
It's actually been less than that because so I became incorporated in November, December, my website launched. So it's just 3 months. Um, Curiously enough, most of my customers have been professionals, I think simply because they get it. And that surprised me because I thought I'd be going in the route of the band students and catering to that to get them, the right setup from the beginning, which I think still that will be most useful in terms of market. Although, I invented this to help flute players. I didn't say I want to make a business. The inception was nothing like that. But it's a good question. So yeah, most of them are professionals, then some amateurs, and then less than that would be beginning students. But yeah, the teachers I have spoke to are thrilled about it for their students. Yeah, just to be able to go home, like I said, and have their students put their flute together exactly the way they think that they should put their flute together for that particular student. See? Mm-hmm.
What's I'm just curious, maybe what is one of the things that can happen that you've experienced when your flute is out of alignment? Like maybe just like a specific flute. Give us some flute lingo.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say number one would be intonation. The octaves would not be in tune. So if I'm a little bit too rolled out, I'm going to be sharp. I mean, conversely, if I'm too rolled in, it's going to be a little bit flat. And that's going to affect how much I pull the head joint in or out, because ideally we should be pulling out our head joint so that we can give a large volume of air into the flute, which is going to allow us to play with more colors and a larger dynamic range. So if the flute is too rolled in and you have your head joint too pushed in, that's going to inhibit so many aspects of your flute playing. So that's what I would say would be the main issue, is projection, and then response as well with articulation. There's this, oh, my tripod's about to fall. There's this school of thought that if the head joint's too rolled out, you're not going to be able to get to the back edge, of the embouchure hole so that the articulation is clear. I don't agree in that. Have you heard of the Bernoulli effect?
I've heard of it, but remind me of what it means in
Yeah.
this case.
So I'm not that scientific, but what I do know about it, it's something interesting, that if the distance between the tips of your lips and your back edge of your embouchure hole is further, your air, when you blow, mixes with the air in the room. And so actually it makes your air go faster. So if you basically, how does that translate to actual flute playing? So if you're too rolled in, you're going to actually have to use a larger volume of air to make the flute respond. And so if you be able to use a less volume of air if you're further away from the back edge of the embouchure hole because of the Bernoulli effect.
Wow, that's so crazy, but it falls in line with what I learned, because I was talking about having, a massive change in my embouchure, and I was trying to frown more and relax the sides of my mouth, but my teacher also taught me to do these bunny lips sort of thing, where I would raise my upper lip and cover, kind of like
Blowing
shape
down.
the stream of the air more with my upper lip, and I had never tried that before, and I thought, oh God, I'm so rolled out right now. How can I even get the sound out? But once I adjusted, something clicked, and now you're talking about the Bernoulli effect, so I guess that's what it was.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, in general, as a teacher, and also just in my own search of becoming a better flute teacher, I have always noticed that the worst is trying to control the embouchure from the corners of the mouth, and there's so much more that we need to do at the front of our lips, especially in playing very soft dynamics and trying to play very legato, bringing your lips forward. There's a lot of benefit to that, and that's where the magic, I think, happens. And then you can play with much more color in your sound when you're using that flexibility and not relying on the corners. I mean, I'm generalizing it, but that's kind of essentially my thinking about behind it. And a lot of students I've found have just not been taught how to control the front of your lips. I can think of David Kramer, my former flute teacher, who was associate principal in the Philadelphia Orchestra. He does it so beautifully, and he plays with such a colorful sound. And I know that part of it is just, I don't like to use the word relaxation, because that's like laying down on your bed. We can't be relaxed, but being supple, having flexible embouchure, so nothing ever tight. So we're constantly in this search of molding the sound. That's what we need to have as flute players. You watch all the great flute players in the world, they don't have a fixed embouchure, but don't mistake it with not having movement, so it's that flexibility. Yeah.
Yeah. A combination between flexibility and strength, like we all want in the gym, right? The
Mhm.
flute.
Yeah. It's a lot of talk about your embouchure, but I think, to be a great flute player, it all starts with the breath, really, and then your lips just guide it, the sound. Yeah, but that's kind of going off on a tangent.
Well, I'm happy to go off on tangents. I could
Yeah.
talk flute all night, but I
Mhm.
was just going to bring it back around to the PremAligner. Where can our watchers get it?
Absolutely. At my website, www at premaligner.com. So it's $17.99. That includes, for now, it includes complimentary shipping handling in the United States. If you are a resident of New Jersey, there is sales tax, but only in that state because that's where my business is registered. Actually, I just got confirmation today that the PremAligner will be exhibited at the Flute Society of Greater Philadelphia, their flute fair this Saturday at Westchester University in Pennsylvania.
Great.
Yes,
That's
and it will be in stores. I am not able to tell you what stores yet, but very shortly it will be in 3 stores in the US, flute shops. And so I'm sure you'll be able to purchase it on their websites and then in person as well. So I also accept orders directly at PayPal, PremAligner at gmail.com. So those are the ways you can order it. I have, my Instagram and Facebook pages as well. You can always DM me on those pages, and I'll be there to answer any questions you might have. And if you have large studios, for orders of 10 or more, I offer 25% discount, and then it just keeps going up. If you need 50, then it's up to 30% off. 20 is 25% off.
all right. Our flute teachers get in touch with you. Our flute studio owners get in touch with you. And y'all, I will be at NFA in San Antonio in August, so you can see what it looks like on my flute. I heard there may or may not be some PremAligners there, so we'll know a little bit closer to the date. And yeah, anything else you wanted to add before I let you carry on with your evening?
Thank you so much for having me, Vic. I really appreciate it. And I wish everyone happy alignment of their head joint, consistent alignment for demystifying flute playing.
Happy alignment, yes. And our body, mind, and music and flute.
Absolutely, yes, so that we can just shine and share our music, our love of music with everyone, whether we are teachers or teachers and performers or students. That's what it's all about.
Okay, well, have a wonderful rest of your evening, Prema. My Flutarians members, those of you who are watching now, after this stream, I'm going to go live from my computer and do a little test run for my color-coded Get Started Improvising presentation. I would love your feedback. Do a little sound check with me. And for those who are watching later, enjoy the replay. All right,
Thank you,
y'all.
Vic. Okay, goodbye.
All right, cheers.
Thank you.